Good morning. I have information that is too important for you to ignore. And you know how I am. I have to go live as soon as I realize that this is important information that people need to hear. So here we are. I'm going live. And I didn't really plan it, but I think this is important and you all need to hear it because some people are talking about it and not a lot of people are. So I was having a chat with Lynn today. I see you watching. And we were talking about iodine. And then I asked everyone, what are your thoughts on sea salt? Because here's the thing. There's a couple of books actually that I'm going to encourage you to get. And this is so important because this relates to autoimmune, to cancer, to thyroid issues, to the ovaries, the uterus, the testes, you name it. The issue is iodine deficiency. And because iodine deficiency is a pervasive problem in the United States for the last century, actually it was first detected in the early 1800s. And what is very interesting that I want you all to really take away, and please watch this video. You know, you may think, oh, I don't need that information. I don't need iodine, whatever. No, you definitely do need iodine. And I'm telling you, this is another medical conspiracy. In medical school, they are taught that iodine is an unsafe molecule and that it can poison the body. But here's what I want you to understand. We all have a thyroid, right? And you have thyroid hormone. The thyroid hormone uses iodine to create T3, T4, even T1, T2. That is an indicator of how many iodine molecules are used in that hormone. Have any of you had thyroid testing? You know what I'm talking about? Have any of you had, I've got notes on my phone I wish I could look at, but I also have this book I'm referencing. But have any of you had issues with endometriosis, period problems for men? You're having issues with cholesterol, high blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. All of these actually can be related to an iodine deficiency. Did you know this? And iodine is a naturally occurring mineral in the environment. It's very deficient in our soils, in our foods. It is prevalent though in areas near the ocean. So people that live near the ocean, you actually can absorb iodine molecules through the air around you. It's in the soil. It's in seaweed, as you know, kelp, as you know. And you may not know this actually because this isn't common knowledge here in the United States. So I want to encourage you all to get educated on iodine. It is a very simple addition to your diet. It is absolutely necessary to your health and wellness. You might actually have an iodine deficiency. They say 95% of Americans do. And your doctor might be prescribing you medications. If you're on meds, this could be a solution for you. I'm not offering you medical advice, as they say we can't do unless we're a doctor, which I'm sorry, but a lot of doctors, they're not educated on this. And this is very, very important information. I also want to, hi Jenna, I also want to encourage you to research this. It's very important. Also using sea salt in your diet. Sea salt has trace minerals, okay? Celtic sea salt, I do believe, is the best. And the trace minerals available in the sea salt actually work as a cofactor with the iodine, and any of the glandular tissue in your body that produces hormone will be affected by an iodine deficiency, and it can cause all kinds of horrible symptoms, and people get diagnoses because they are iodine deficient, and then their doctor puts them on drugs. Is that a solution? I'm asking you. What do you think? Is that a great solution? If you are deficient in certain minerals and you develop symptoms and your doctor puts you on drugs, will that solve the root cause? You know me, I get so fired up and pissed off about this stuff, I have to go live and talk about it because it's just ridiculous. I'm going to read to you the back of this book. This book is called The Iodine Crisis, and I think that she did a really good job. She said, who stole iodine? Who created the iodized salt scam? Who said that iodine was a poison? They did. Who are they? The government. misinformed healthcare professionals, food manufacturers, household good manufacturers, personal care manufacturers, pesticide manufacturers, to name a few. They stole iodine and they are robbing you and your health now, as you're watching this video, okay? Quite literally. Why? Because there has been an entire scam around this. I'm telling you, it goes back 100 years. This is how insane this whole thing is. And there is a chemical called bromine and chlorine, which you guys are familiar with, right? Well, I don't know if you know this, but bromine it's a biochemical that is in our food now. It's in a new car. So a new car smell is bromine. Here's the piece I need you to take home today and write it in the comments when you read that, when you hear this. Your body will substitute bromine for iodine. Your body will substitute bromine for iodine. Iodine is needed, again, I will repeat it, to create your thyroid hormones, right? It's also used by every cell in the body, and it's used by all of the glandular tissue that produces all of your hormones in your body. So if your body is substituting bromine, which is prevalent today in everything, it's in baked goods, it's in, like I said, the new car smell, it's a chemical that's off-gassing. So your body grabs that bromine molecule because it's deficient in iodine and it tries to utilize it in producing your hormones. Can you guys connect the dots here on this and see the problem? Can you see how huge of an issue this is? Can you see why important this is to learn? And you know how I am. I get so passionate and so fired up and so pissed about the agenda out there that is ruining Americans' lives. And it's a simple solution. Iodine is a simple, naturally occurring molecule and it is very inexpensive. You can get a bottle of iodine for like $10. Now, here's another scam. The US RDA, the recommended dietary allowance, is woefully deficient, okay? It is way too low. Way too low. It's, I think off the top of my head, 150 micrograms per day. Hello, the doctors that have studied iodine have said that you need around, at minimum, 12 milligrams of iodine per day, at minimum, and that's for a woman who weighs 110 pounds. So that's not a lot of women, is it? Also, the upper limit, some people will go as high as 100 milligrams per day of iodine for a dose. And that's quite incredible. In fact, there's been many studies on iodine and, you know, because the science says that you will poison yourself with iodine. This is a lie, okay? This is a lie. They have done studies where people have taken 100 times the US RDA to no detriment. People that develop thyroid nodules, you know about this, right? The thyroid will develop nodules. The thyroid will swell. You will get cysts if you have iodine deficiency. Is your doctor telling you this? I doubt it. I know because my mom had the thyroid nodule. And I asked her, what did the doctor say about iodine? Did you do an iodine test? Because they can do a provocation test with urine. But guess what? This is the scam. Insurance doesn't cover testing. Ask your doctor. I dare you to ask your doctor their thoughts on iodine. And I'll tell you one thing I know. Doctors, medical school, they are not trained in nutrients that the body needs. Have any of you experienced this when you have gone to a doctor's appointment? They don't really talk to you about nutrition, do they? They don't ask you, are you getting sea salt every day and those trace minerals? How much magnesium are you taking? What are your vitamin B12 levels? How is your iodine? They don't ask you these questions. Why? I will tell you why. Because natural molecules cannot be patented by drug companies. Doctors have a protocol that they follow based on what insurance companies cover. Do you see the issue? If you are going to a doctor and using insurance, you're not going to be able to get these root causes covered, number one, by your insurance. But number two, they probably don't even have the education on it, right? I mean, I know this. My dad's a doctor. My husband's a PA, trained in the Western medicine model. My aunt's a nurse. I have so many family members that are in medicine, and this is the case. I know this. Okay, so that's the frustrating thing for the patient. The patient, on average, does not know this. They do not know that their doctor is following a protocol that really is created by the insurance companies. So if the insurance companies aren't testing for the root causes, the nutrient deficiencies, if the insurance companies don't cover that, will the doctor be ordering those tests? No. So what is the solution? Can you guys guess? This is the problem with our medicine model here in the United States today. And I call it a medicine model because ultimately, what do? They prescribe you meds. Am I right? Are any of you frustrated about this? I mean, I feel like I'm speaking to the choir here, but maybe I don't know. I wasn't gonna go live today, but I had to. I got way too fired up because I was chatting with my friend Lynn. Oh, and I have to mention this because I've had a couple people tell me that they're trying to quit smoking. If you know anyone who's trying to quit smoking, please tag them in this video. This is extremely important information. Iodine, and also any addiction, okay? Iodine actually helps with people kicking an addiction. Did you know this? I mean, it's incredible information. The other thing is smokers will have 4 times the deficiency of the average American whom is already deficient. So if you know a smoker, tag them or send them this video because iodine is essential. And the problem with this iodine situation is it's like this cascade of problems. One problem leads to the next. And I'm telling you what, if you can look at the root causes, and if it's as simple as a dietary deficiency, don't you think that that's the best way to fix your health? I mean, not fix your health, but support your health. Don't you think? And here's the other issue. I see what Gary said. I feel like they prescribe meds to mask the symptoms, but they never address the root cause. Hello, that right there was what I realized years back when I was going through my mold testing, Lyme testing journey. And really, truly, that is how I've learned so much about this through my own problems and my own health journey and having to pay out of pocket for the testing that insurance wouldn't cover. And ultimately, that is how I ended up here with this knowledge, not because, just for that reason, right? So clearly, I kept telling God, okay, what is the lesson in my journey? And it was because I was meant to learn it so I can teach it. I'm an incredible teacher and I get so passionate. And so I need to teach this information and when it comes to me. Now, another important piece for you all to understand about this iodine is that it can protect you from radiation exposure. And if you think about, there's so many different scenarios where they are using radiation in medical diagnosis XYZ. Am I right? And they expose you to radiation. So mammograms, for example, and the breast tissue requires iodine. You guys, if you're not taking iodine, I implore you, please get educated on the iodine. And I am going to be teaching more about this in my group, Beyond the Veil, this week. So if you do want to join the group, type group in the comments so I can directly link you to it. But this book is the book that I've been referencing. It's called The Iodine Crisis. I know that's backwards for you, but I'll take a picture and put it in the comments below. So you can always read through the comments because I always post more references and details in the comments of my videos. So the author is Lynn Farrow. The foreword is by Dr. David Brownstein. I don't know if you know this, but Dr. Brownstein is an absolutely incredible medical doctor. He's an MD. He's not a naturopath, but he is the one who developed the iodine protocol to treat the con that happened back in 2020. And if you don't know what I'm referencing, you'll learn more about that as you follow along with me because I talk about it sometimes. And it is partly why I got thrown in Facebook jail years ago. But the big con. So he spoke out about that. He shared the holistic ways of treating it. In fact, iodine was one of the treatments. You would nebulize iodine, or you would nebulize, there's a certain type of colloidal silver called Argentin 23 that you could nebulize, and it's incredible. But iodine, I'm telling you what, you guys, iodine is such an incredible molecule. I really want you to read this book or get Dr. Brownstein's book, Iodine and Why You Need It. And I understand everyone's busy, but I'm going to beg you, this is how very serious this is. You educate yourself on iodine, because it truly, truly is affecting all the areas of our life. In fact, they're saying that because of so many chemicals like bromine and chlorine and fluoride and fluorine in our environment, that the iodine has become so deficient also in our diets, right? They used to put iodine in bread, actually, and it would have 150 micrograms of iodine per slice of bread. And the thing is, that was helping, at minimum, that was helping people to meet a minimum level of iodine so they would not form a goiter. A goiter is a swollen thyroid. So they took that out of the bread, though. I think that was in the 60s, maybe. And then they realized there were a lot of people developing goiters, especially in the Midwest, because the Midwest is so far from the ocean, right? And again, I told you, you can get iodine in the air even when you're around at the ocean. And you get iodine from sea vegetables. You can get iodine even when you swim in the ocean, and will absorb through your skin. So anyway, this whole thing, back in the day, and don't pinpoint me on the date, but back when they added iodine to salt, what happened was that they were trying to address this problem of goiter. And that goes back to, there was a mine where the miners, and goiters were a very, 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 very common problem back in 100 plus years ago, in the 1800s. And so what happened was, there was a mine, they were mining silver, and in the mine they noticed that none of the miners had goiter. And so a doctor said, he came in and he was thinking, well, what's reducing the incidence of goiter? And it turned out that it was because there was iodine in the water that they were drinking. And so at that point they decided they would put iodine in salt in this area of the US, and it was in the Midwest that had the highest rates of goiter. And this was, now I remember, it's just before World War I. And so then they started putting salt, or iodized salt, on the market, and then soon after that they started selling iodized salt across the US, and that really greatly reduced the incidence of goiter. Now the issue though is in the 70s, the studies around iodine were abandoned. And Dr. Brownstein has tried to go back and find information and reason for why they abandoned studied iodine. And he can't find any reason, but this is also the time that they took the iodine out of the bread as a preservative. And so people were getting even less iodine in their diet. And they also started putting bromine into flour to bleach it. Bromine is a type, something that they can use to bleach, kind of like chlorine. So they would bleach the wheat to get white bread. Remember when Wonder Bread came on the scene? How many of you remember that when you were young? For us in our family, if you got a Wonder Bread sandwich, it was like such a treat. But my mom absolutely would not feed us white bread growing up. Probably because she grew up on a farm with a lot of kids, and they made all their own food. So my mom always just did that. Anyway, did any of you guys grow up eating white bread? If you did, type Wonder Bread in the comments, because I'm telling you what, that is probably what created your foundation for iodine deficiency, because you got a lot of bromine in your body internally from ingesting it. So what I want you to do is really take a look into this iodine, because iodine is so incredibly cool. What it will do when you start taking it, it will actually gently detox your body from bromine, fluoride, and chlorine. Now, you want to get going on that slowly, because if you notice you start getting headaches when you take iodine, then you've got to be cautious as you proceed, because you don't want to kick off these chemicals from their binding sites in the body too quickly because you mobilize them, and then that can be uncomfortable. It can cause headaches, low-grade fever, etc. So also, another caution, if you have Hashimoto's or you have any thyroid issue, it is also a good recommendation to work very slowly on this and to work with a naturopathic doctor who can really guide you, because what you're going to want to do is get your hormones tested regularly as you are introducing this iodine and sea salt into the diet. Now, if you're considering you want to start iodine and you're not sure exactly what to do to get going, I'm going to be posting more about in my group, so type group below and I'll add you. But the iodine, to prep yourself, you guys, all of you can do this today. Take a half a teaspoon of Celtic sea salt in a glass of water, big glass of water, okay? And this is a quart size jar with my shake in it. So what you're gonna do is you start with a quarter to a half teaspoon of sea salt. And this also depends on whether or not you swell up when you have salt in your diet. So you be the judge for yourself. But what's gonna happen is you'll add it to about that much water, and then you're gonna just drink plain water, a whole quart, okay? Now what that does is it starts to fill in those gaps if you are deficient in trace minerals. And if you have any selenium, you need 200 micrograms of selenium per day, in addition to your trace minerals and your sodium that you're getting in your sea salt. And that's a whole nother, I could do a whole nother live video on salt, sea salt specifically, because that's another lie Americans have been sold, is don't ingest salt. Who's heard that lie? Have you guys ever heard that one? So, yeah, I was going to read to you, I think I lost the page, but I was going to read to you one of these, what happened to it here? I had a testimonial I was going to read to you. I'm just trying to find it in my book. But here's another thing. I mean, again and again in this book, they're talking about breast health and breast cancer, calcifications, fibroids that form in the uterus, varicose veins, broken capillaries. I mean, all of these things are related to iodine. Another thing, I'm just reading off, they're all testimonials in this book. I'm just reading off some of the testimonials. Hair loss, body temperature normalizes, painful breasts, hypothyroidism, 50 pounds excess weight. Hello. Wrist pain, cysts, allergies disappearing, cherry angiomas falling off, heart arrhythmia, increased testosterone levels. Men want that, definitely. So the thing is about this iodine, it is just more information I feel like is intentionally hidden from the American population to keep you sick and on drugs. Do any of you feel that way? Am I the only one here? I'm like, there is a clear agenda. But maybe you don't feel that way. And if you don't, that's fine. That's fine. But I can definitely show you a lot of proof that it might be true. I'm going to keep reading through these testimonials. Ovarian cysts, fibrocystic breast, uterine fibroids, endometriosis, again, tumor size. Oh my gosh. I mean, this, I can go on and on. Breast lumps, allergies, fatigue, herpes outbreaks, blood pressure, cholesterol, heart rate, fibrocystic breasts again, hearing loss, who would have known, menstrual problems, thyroid issue. Okay, a lot of these things you'll notice, I think, is that these are often quite related to hormones, okay? Because when the hormones are out of whack, your thyroid, you know, it really is one of the first glands that's affected by toxicity. I don't know if you know this, but yes, the first glands affected by toxicity. And so it's a cascade of problems, right? If the thyroid starts to go, then you'll see the downward, there's always a downward influence. Yeah, so, I mean, it's just such an incredible book, this one, as well as Dr. Brownstein's book. I really hope you all will invest the time into learning about iodine. Because what the other thing I learned, I almost forgot to mention this. This is incredible. If you know anyone pregnant, they need this video, okay? Because pregnant women use up more iodine. And in utero, the baby is using the iodine as well to develop the brain, okay? So they actually are also connecting autism rates to iodine deficiency. And now let's imagine the mother gets vaccinated during pregnancy. So we know vaccines cause an immune response, that they use up glutathione, your hormone, everything kicks up, right? So you use up the nutrients that you have. However, if you go into pregnancy and you're already deficient, well, then what happens when baby's born and on day one, the baby also receives vaccines? You can see, again, the downstream cascade of problems. Okay, so iodine, they say, is very, very, very important for the pregnant woman and the developing baby. Now, also, it's very, very important for children going into adolescence, because what happens when they're teenagers? Their hormones kick in. What are we seeing across the board with teenagers? They're having hormone deficiencies and all kinds of problems. I say, why don't we talk more about iodine and sea salt and nutrients to help children and teenagers, rather than putting teenage girls on birth control? Hello. Or I'm sure you've heard about it for women. They develop polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they're developing cysts on the ovaries. And what does the doctor do? Puts them on birth control. And I was just reading, a gal messaged me that she had some cystic ovary problems, and the doctor put her on birth control, and then the downstream cascade of issues. Because every time you take in a chemical molecule, which is what a prescription drug is, your body will produce symptoms or side effects, okay? Side effects are basically your body's way of handling the chemical. And there might be, of course, times where these drugs are very beneficial for the body and we need acute care and etc. But there's also times that the prescription drugs will create side effects that then lead to more prescription drugs prescribed. And one of my very, very good friends is a compounding pharmacist. So we have conversations about this stuff all the time. And basically, there aren't any studies for drug-on-drug interaction. And that's a huge problem if you think about it. Because what are doctors doing? They are diagnosing you, let's say, with a term for a collection of symptoms. It's not the root cause. But then they also give you a med. And if they can't get to a diagnosis, then they'll try and put you on antidepressant meds. I don't know if you guys know this, but that's very common. And because they think, well, if we can't find a reason for this person's issues, then it must be in their head. Who's experienced that? I have, before I got my Lyme diagnosed. Anyway, the thing is with these drug-on-drug interactions that there's so many people that are on so many different meds, and there's nobody paying attention to the side effects that develop from being on so many different meds. Do you see what I'm getting at here? And so, yeah, there might be studies on certain meds, but there aren't studies on certain meds with other meds, if that makes sense. And definitely there's not many studies for more than 2 meds. Did you know that? It's really frustrating. So if you're looking for information on drug-on-drug interaction, go to drugs.com. You can look up the medication you've been prescribed, and then you can look up the other meds if you have any that you're on or your doctor's thinking about prescribing to you. And then also, there's so many books and so many doctors that have come forward and are sharing information about the alternative. Because I don't know if you know this, probably if you think about it, it makes sense. There were no chemical drugs prior, actually, to the 1900s. And so everyone used natural medicine. It is the original form of medicine. It is not alternative. People call it alternative today because Western medicine has become the mainstream, but that's because Western medicine was originally funded by Rockefeller. Back in the day, he funded a study called the Flexner Report in 1912. And after that report came out, all the homeopathic doctors, medical schools were shut down because they were snake oil. And the new fancy form of medicine that utilized petrochemicals to make drugs became the norm. So anyway, just connecting dots, that's all. That's a whole nother rabbit trail I could do another video on, but I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, hope you'll enjoy this book. Hope you'll get this book. If you are catching the replay and you've watched till the end, please drop me a note and let me know that you enjoyed the video, or thank you, or whatever, just so I know that you guys are watching and enjoying this content. And again, I will add you to the group if you type group. So just type group. That's where we'll go into a deeper dive. I'm just coming back and getting really visible again and talking about this stuff, because during the con years, a few years back, they shut down my account and I couldn't make live videos. And then that's when I had Lyme, so I didn't really have the extra energy for it, to be honest. But now I'm doing great. So I wanted to come on and just share some information about how to get started. And again, get yourself some Celtic sea salt. Start using that first thing in the morning, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, depending on how you handle salt, in the morning in a glass of water. It'll help flush your kidneys of bromine as you start taking your iodine. You also want to have selenium in your diet, and that's 200 micrograms per day. And then your iodine, you're going to aim for a daily dose of 12 milligrams per day. And you might start lower, because if you have thyroid stuff going on, you might do that. But yeah, in the group, we're going to be giving even more information about how to get going with your iodine protocol. And truly, iodine is something everyone needs in their diet. So thanks for tuning in and watching till the end. I'm glad to be back too, Charlotte. So thank you for being here today. And hopefully this was helpful. We'll chat with you all soon.